What's up, everybody? Just landed here in Abu Dhabi on Etihad Airlines. 5 weeks on Fight Island and 5 badass fights. Here we go. The world of boxing hasn't been able to do what I've been able to do over the last 20 years. So so if they can't do things when the world is normal, you can't expect them to do things when the world is crazy. Funny enough, since the pandemic, I've been looking at other options too. And probably have something to announce here soon.
In the world of boxing?
Yeah.
Okay. I like the way that you tease it. Listen, man, you're dropping news bombs today. You might as well drop that.
Look at you getting this. I haven't told this to anybody else but you.
Well, that's very nice of you to do that. I appreciate it. We're going to have to carry on about it because you're obviously coming into the world of boxing at some point. Is that something on your own? Are you teaming up with somebody? What are you looking to do?
When it's time, I'll let you go. I'll let you know when it's time. I'm not ready yet, but in the next couple of weeks.
So what do you guys think about that? Dana White has said in the coming weeks he has a major announcement to make, and it likely has something to do with some boxing. Now, we heard that Dana White was getting into boxing, that he was bumping shoulders with Al Heyman, that he's been talking with Floyd Mayweather, and Dana White is looking to get into the sport of boxing. Now, how do us boxing fans feel about this? Now, let's put how you feel about Dana White aside for a second. Let's talk about what he has done for the sport of mixed martial arts over the past 25 or so years. Dana White has done a phenomenal job in building the brand, the UFC. He done a phenomenal job. I watched Dana White since day one. I'm a long-time MMA fan, so I've been watching it pretty much since day one. And I've seen a lot of things change over the years. I've seen the sport had its ups and downs, but now the UFC, mixed martial arts, went from a sport that was looked at as being barbaric, being a lot of people said it was quote unquote homosexual, because the guys did some grappling. But now it's a mainstream sport. It's an ESPN. It's backed by ESPN. You see it all the time. It's everywhere. Fights is on all the time. It's on all social media platforms. UFC is everywhere. Dana White has done a phenomenal job in building the brand of the UFC. Now, could Dana White help boxing is the question. What would he do? What could he contribute in order to bring boxing back to the prominence that it once was? Now, we all know in the UFC, usually the best fight the best. The ranking system is a little less confusing. There's only one champion, maybe an interim champion, depending on if that champion is out with an injury. Things are a little bit more straightforward when it comes to the UFC. Now, when we talking about these money fighters, like the Masvidals, the Conor McGregors, the Nate Diaz's, things get a little tricky. Certain fights don't happen. It gets real tricky. It's almost boxing-like when we talk about the money fighters. But overall, the sport of mixed martial arts has been pretty consistent with giving us the really good matchups and the best fighting the best. Top 10 guys fighting top 10 guys, things of that nature. But what could he do to help boxing? Boxing, so many belts, so many sanctioned bodies, so many people involved. And that's one of the problems with boxing. There's so many different people involved. Some of the fights that likely should happen, likely won't happen because there's just so many people, so many hurdles, so many obstacles are in the way. But with the UFC or MMA, or should I say just UFC, everything goes through Dana White. There's no this guy, there's no that guy. Dana White is calling the shots. But in boxing, it's a little bit different. And in order for boxing to get back to what it once was back in the early days or in the 80s and the early 90s, or even back period, before MMA even came around, boxing was the shit, right? But a lot of casual fans look at MMA now because MMA is the closest thing to a real fight. They give us exciting fights. They give us good matchups. And the best fight the best. But in boxing, not so much. And I love boxing, so don't get it twisted, okay? Boxing is my favorite sport, but I'm just being objective here. UFC, Dana White has done a phenomenal job with the UFC. Only time will tell if he can do the same with boxing. some of the things that he could do with boxing is have it a little bit more straightforward to where, like for example, they showed Erickson Lubin. No disrespect to Lubin, I like the young kid. I think he's a phenomenal young talent. But when they showed him sitting on that podium, on the stage over there with the commentators, he had that belt right there. If a casual fan turned on and saw that, they would have thought that he was the champion. But in reality, he really not the champion. So it's just really confusing. It's just so many things with boxing. Dana White, he knows it's a tall task ahead of him if he gets into boxing and try to fix boxing. A lot of people are going to be against Dana White hopping into boxing, but I think it'll be a good thing. The more boxing, the better. And if Dana White could do what Eddie Hearn failed to do, what Bob Arum failed to do, what Al Heyman or Oscar De La Hoya failed to do, that'll be good for us in the end. You know, we're going to see what position he plays in boxing, if he's going to be working with Al Heyman. Is he going to be, because last I heard, him and Bob Arum don't get along. Him and De La Hoya don't get along. Eddie Hearn, they so-and-so, I guess. But I know him and Al Heyman has been talking. That's what he said before. Him and Floyd Mayweather talk. And they looking to do something with some boxing. We're going to see what Dana White can do with boxing. I think he's honestly, you know, all bullshit aside, how I feel about him personally, I think he's probably one of the best promoters in the world when it comes to this fighting shit. We're going to see what he can do with boxing. We can see if Dana White can rebuild boxing and bring boxing back into the spotlight where it belongs. Like, subscribe, holla at your boy. Peace out.